Hey everybody, welcome to this episode of Make Today Mammoth. My name is Dallas Hardcastle. I'm excited to be here with you. And in today's episode, we are going to talk about the single fastest way I know to become an expert in sales and to make a lot of money being good at selling. And it is going to be teaching you the process of unclosing. If you want to be able to add serious dollars to your company, to your sales mechanism right away, stick around. You're not going to want to miss how to unclose your way to making millions of dollars. Hey everybody, welcome to today's episode. I'm super excited for you to be here because I love being able to help business people, entrepreneurs, coaches, consultants, perhaps like yourself, to be able to add really good money into their pipeline, into their bank account, into their profit centers quickly. If you are brand new to this podcast or YouTube video, welcome. We appreciate you stopping by. And if you are returning, we are so glad that you are here. If you decide that you would like to do something that is just a way to pay it forward, please feel free to leave us a 5-star review. Or perhaps even if you'd like to subscribe to the podcast, and by you subscribing and or giving it that 5-star rating, that allows other people to be able to find it in the algorithm. It pushes it up. So maybe somebody who is looking for that thing to be able to help them out, maybe they're going through a rough patch, maybe they're a business owner, somebody who needs to be able to figure out how to be able to increase their sales and make more money, help themselves out, help their family out, help their community out. Hopefully that can be the thing that can really help move them along. So it would be very appreciated by us, and also, as I say, a way to be able to pay it forward to help others be able to find us as well. In today's episode, we are going to talk about unclosing, and unclosing came from this basis where many, many years ago, I was put in this kind of high pressure situation. It was 45 minutes and just grinding and hard closing. And it just made me so upset, and I got emotional, I got frustrated, and I was like grabbing for the guy and wanted to get physical, and it just drove me crazy. And then a week or two later, I landed my first sales job as a college student in the summer. And it was selling these in-ground pools. And this gentleman was spending, it was like you had to go to this one-day training before you could go out in the field and start selling. And this guy, it was just ran around. He just spent an entire day talking about closing, blah, 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 blah. And it was just this just really just crappy way of treating people and doing life and handling everything that I could see from it. So I just hated this whole aspect of closing. So to me, I wanted it to be unclosing because, and this isn't to get into semantics of words, but to me, words matter. And every time I thought of closing something, I didn't like that connotation. I didn't like that feeling. I didn't like what it resembled. To me, it was all about opening. It was about opening an opportunity, opening a conversation, opening dialogue, opening relationships. It was that proverbial, rather than closing and kind of concluding business, to me, I wanted to open up all of these opportunities that we can have to do more business together, to get referrals, to work with other people to make a bigger difference, on and on and on. So to me, it was all about opening. Well, I became pretty good at the selling thing, and then I went out and had people asking me to train them how to sell, and I was always talking about this system of unclosing. And one of the things that would regularly come up is that people would ask me like, well, Dallas, I know they would hear something about my trainings, and they say, well, Dallas, I know you're not big into scripts. And it's like, well, was never the case, was never ever the case, but I got pegged for that all the time. People are like, well, I know, I want our sales team to be able to be really, really good. And I want them to, and I know you're not into scripts, you're kind of into the feel, blah, blah, blah. I'm like, well, no, that's actually not true at all. Like, number one, I want you to be very, very good at being able to accurately communicate with different people. Meaning, if you're on the phone with a high skeptic, or with someone who's a fast decision maker or a slow decision maker, if you're someone who is fast and speaks quickly like I do, or someone who is more pensive and more thoughtful, I want you to be able to have these different conversations with different people that are thinking differently, reacting differently, and are going to respond differently to different forms of communication. That's number one. But the number two is, I don't want people memorizing a script. Do we provide scripts to salespeople when I'm working with sales teams? Yes, of course we have scripts. But more than just hearing it or seeing it, the goal is to train it in a way where they understand it. I want the salespeople to understand it So that script in front of them, what I found for many, many years is so many times that if somebody just had that script, and then as soon as the call would kind of go off script, and then the salesperson's all frantic and they're jumping all over and trying to find a way to kind of get them inserted back into the script, and then they wind up losing the call, rather than being able to understand what's going on, understand the process, understand why the person is saying and doing certain things. So it's all about being able to sell in a very logical framework. It's a very logical way of being able to connect with that prospect. So when they have some kind of an objection, you're able to logically have a conversation with them. So I'm not trying to close them. I'm just trying to speak like them through rapport, right? I am like them, so they tend to trust me and the things I'm going to say, and they will tend to respect the things that I'm saying. Because if we have no rapport, right? If we just have no rapport whatsoever, then it's going to be very, very difficult to have the same quality of conversation that we can have. But if we at least have great rapport, I'm speaking like they speak. I'm able to reflect back to them as they have reflected to me and things that they've shared. And if I'm able to accurately decipher an insight and then share that with them, because we're like one another, we're thinking like one another, we're deducing, we're going the same direction, we have the same thoughts, the same philosophies, and we can kind of strategically and logically move ourselves forward and advance this conversation, then we have a much better chance now of being able to handle an objection. And the short version of an objection with UNclosing is all about empowering the prospect. We want to provide them with power. And it's always been about that. Like, to me, closing, these hard closing things were as you're just trying to like submission, right? Especially just like you're trying to just beat them in the face and just overpower them. And, a lot of these sales teams, it's about being abrasive. It's about being caustic. It's about, like almost like picking a fight. You say something, they're like, well, maybe we're not a good fit to work together. And it's like, where did that come from? It's like, why did that even, someone's like, well, I want to think about it. And, the salesperson was like, well, I just, maybe we're just not going to be a fit for one another if you're going to have to think about it. It's like, who talks like that unless you're trying to pick a fight? Right? So UNclosing is a logical framework of being able to step through. And while I obviously can't go through an entire training here on this very short podcast we're going to be enjoying together, but I can give some very, very good examples. And some of these examples of, things like, if somebody gets on a call, there's always going to be these handful of things. Think of like Mary Had a Little, right? I learned this from a sales trainer, and I forget the gentleman's name, honestly, but I learned this back, God, I don't know how long ago. But it's kind of that Mary had a little, and then you say lamb. That was to illustrate that if you know something's going to happen, if you know something's going to come your direction, well, just be prepared for it. So when we start to understand a framework of UNclosing, where these objections are going to tend to come in really three different ways. They're going to come from outside circumstances that they feel are out of their control. Then they're going to go to people that are outside of themselves. And then finally, it will come down to them and maybe having the inability to act, take action, decide, come up with the money, fill in the blank. So it's going to be outside circumstance. It's going to be outside others, people, and then finally self, and then those excuses inside the self. So as we can move through those three different areas, then we're able to logically go through this process of UNclosing. And let me just give you, two or three very succinct ones, so that this will hopefully help you as you're getting on your phone calls and you're making sales. Because in my opinion, if you can be a great salesperson, you can get yourself out of almost any jam at any time. Like if you need money and you're a great salesperson, you can go out and you can pick up some phones, you can send some emails, send out some text messages, whatever that is, and you can just sell. Sometimes you're just one or two sales away from really turning things around, especially if you have a premium, a higher offer. Maybe that to you is is a $10 or $15,000 offer. Maybe it's a $30 or $50,000 offer. But a lot of times businesses, man, they're just one or two of these moves away from really being able to turn the ship around. And if you have the ability to do a little bit of marketing and then to be able to get on and just use a logical based unclosing framework, you can do some pretty powerful things. So things like you get on the phone with somebody and they say, oh, I'm just busy right now. I'm busy. How long is this going to take? I'm busy. Well, number one, it's the fallacy of, well, how long is this going to take? Like you're going to be adding more stuff onto their plate. No, great coaching, great consulting is removing stuff, right? We're removing things from their plate because chances are 99% of the time they're spending a fair chunk of their day doing the wrong things. So it's not that they're doing too many things. They just can't add that 11th or 12th thing. It's that of those 10 things they're doing, 6 or 7 or 8 of them, they don't have any business doing anyway. So we want to eliminate those things and really get them focused on the 2 or 3 things that really do matter, and then spend most or all of their time down in those things. And you do that for a consistency of, 30, 50, 80, 100 days, really good things tend to happen. So the first one is like, oh, I'm just too busy, right? Well, I'm too busy. I don't have time. And that's that fallacy of, as soon as I'm not busy, then I'll have time to not be busy, blah, blah. So the question just is like, oh, well, is this a really busy time for you? It's like, oh yeah. It's like, oh, have you had busy times like this in the past? Oh yeah. Are you always this busy? Oh, no, I'm just really super busy right now. Do you see yourself getting busy again in the future? Oh yeah. I mean, these will definitely, they kind of come and go. Okay. Well, if that's going to be the case, then, it would make sense to get started now, because when you learn how to do this now, and this can not only make you less busy because we're going to be removing things from your plate, not adding things to your plate, it'll also teach you how to be able to be very successful doing this while you're busy. And then when times come around when you're not so busy, then you'll really, really be able to excel and do great things. And then when that period of time comes, when you get busy again, you're not going to fall off and fail, and you'll have already learned how to do this when busy. Therefore, your chances of success go through the roof. If you wait for the perfect time to get this thing started, then as soon as you get busy again, then chances are you're going to fall off. So that's just a really, really simple way of doing it. Say once they go outside and they're thinking of these outside forces, and sometimes they'll go to outside people, right? I need to talk to my partner. I need to talk to my spouse. I need to talk to my husband. I need to talk to my wife, fill in the blank. Well, again, keep this short, but if they're talking to somebody else and they're like, well, I need to go talk to my spouse. Well, first of all, it's like, well, trying to understand why, like why is it you're speaking to your spouse? Like, why I got to run this by them? I'll see if is it to see if they approve, or is it to see if they support you? Because there's no way they can't approve of it, really, right? Because they weren't here, they weren't even on the call. So how can they not approve of this? Because they don't know anything about it, right? And they're like, well, no, but I need to go and I need to check in. So then it's like, well, are we looking for approval, or are we looking for support? Because what I would recommend is, if you have a spouse and if this is something that is going to help you, and you've been struggling for whatever period of time, and it's like, does your wife want you? Does your spouse want you to continue struggling? Well, no. Well, do they want you to continue to have a hard time in business, not being able to overcome this thing that you told me you've been struggling with for the past 2 years? Well, no. Well, then I don't think that she is going to sit there and not approve of this. I think what you're really asking her to do is support you. So what I would do is, let's get you started. And then when we get off this phone, later this evening, go to your spouse and say, listen, I've been struggling with this for the past couple of years, and I finally found a solution that I believe is going to, get rid of this thing for me for good. And so I'm going to go forward and do this because this is the solution I really need to get rid of this big problem. And I don't really want you to, approve or disapprove of this thing, but really what I'm asking you for is your support, is support me so that we can grow and we can build and we can be successful in doing this together. That's a really, really powerful way to be able to do amazing things in your business. And I could go on and on and on, but I want to keep this digestible. So Make Today Mammoth. Today, with our unclosing, when we can get ourselves into an unclosing framework where I'm not thinking about closing somebody, but I'm thinking about opening them up, opening up a relationship. And I'm thinking about walking them through a logical way. So the way that the selling will work is first there's this little emotional piece, right? And that emotional piece is hopefully they get themselves into that place where they're ready to take that step, right? They're ready to actually take action and take that initiative, that thing that's maybe been scaring them for, a year to even do. That's the emotional part, is to kind of take that step forward. But then after that, it's the logical part of having a logical sales conversation. So we can talk about what are these things that you're giving your power to, right? It's giving your power away. What are you giving your power away to that are creating these distortions in reality? Thinking, well, these outside things are keeping me from being powerful and successful. These outside people, the people other than myself, are keeping me from being successful and powerful and financially having a lot of money and time and freedom. And then finally, it's like, well, it's me and just my circumstance and timing. And since I don't have this much money or this much whatever, it's me. And I just need to go ahead and delay this decision. I need to stall it and push it out into the future some more. When you have this power, when you possess this power is that all of it resides in you. You have the capacity, you have the resources, you have the drive, you have the intellect, you have the talent, you have the power and the ability to take a step forward and to be able to own your circumstance. So I hope this has been super helpful for you. Obviously, you can always get more information if you want to ask a question or make a comment below. We are happy to help out in any way that we can. If you want to get any more information about what it is that we do with our MakeTodayMammoth.com, feel free to stop over there and you'll see a little video. It's specifically really geared towards coaches and consultant business owners. So if that is something that would be helpful or useful to you, feel free to go over to MakeTodayMammoth.com. But otherwise, friends, I hope you have an incredible rest of the day. As always, just make today mammoth, and we will look forward to seeing you on the next episode.